Hi, this is Jindo. Welcome to Tree Leaf. And our subject today is breathing. I better stop this because I'm getting a little lightheaded. But our subject today is breathing, which is something I advise you to do during Zazen. Because if you stop, especially for longer than 2 or 3 minutes, you may have a problem. Actually, there's a story that the Buddha at one point developed the ability to breathe out of his ears. But I advise you, don't do that. Just breathe. Just breathe. Allow breathing to breathe. We're going to talk about that in a second. But first, I want to talk about a special case when we may do something with the breath in order to calm the mind. I've been saying for a couple of days that we just let the clouds of thought and emotion drift from mind. There is no bad Zazen. Even when the mind is filled with thoughts and cloudy, even on those days that seem off balance, it's all good Zazen. There is no bad Zazen. Well, don't listen to me. I mean, there are times when the head can be so filled with confusion and storming emotions and you can't get settled down that you do want to take a moment to take a breath, take a breather. For beginners too, who have absolutely no sense of how to calm down the mind and their mind is just filled with stuff and they can't stop the stuff, there is a practice or two that you can use. I call it training wheels on the bike to get the mind settled. Or on those really confused days when you need to settle down. One is counting the breath. On the blog I've described it. You take an X inhalation. 1, 2, 3. You see how that goes. You try to get to 10. Most people never get there. Just focused on counting the breath. That will quiet the mind. And as a matter of fact, that is a form of shikantaza. You see, in any form of shikantaza, you need to focus on something, place the mind somewhere. Some people, it's counting the breath. Some people, it's straightening the back, or on the posture, or on a place on the body called the hara. Some people spend their whole lives just focused on the breath. And it's a wonderful practice. But I consider it just for beginners or on those very tumultuous days because I like you to sit focused on spaciousness, everything and nothing in particular, like the clear, open, blue, boundless sky. Why? I'm going to talk about this in a couple of days, but I think it's easier to take off the mat, off the zafu, off the cushion, into your life. When you're out in the world, when you're amidst confusion, it's easier to do a bit of zazen if you don't have to focus on the breath, focus on the posture. I'm going to talk about that more in a couple of days. But for today, I'm saying, count the breaths, but as soon as you get to a certain degree of calm, you feel yourself rather settled. You can see a little of the clear, open blue sky. Return to that practice. Thinking nothing in particular, everything and nothing. Focused on the clear, open, boundless. Dropping thoughts, dropping emotions, letting them drift from mind like clouds. Return to that practice 10,000 times. And 10,000 times again. That's my recommendation. Now, what do you do with the breath during that kind of zazen? Well, there are many forms of meditation in the East where people do unusual or artificial practices with the breath. Extreme practices. Special kinds of breathing patterns in order to bring about unusual or very mystical mind states. And it works! But we don't do that. Ours is just sitting with things as they are. That's our practice, just sitting with things as they are, which means we allow the breath to just be as it is. Now, how do you do that? When you first sit, I usually start by taking 3 deep breaths through the mouth. Then I place the tongue on the roof of the mouth behind the teeth. That keeps you from swallowing too much during Zazen. Close the mouth. Keep the eyes about half open or 1/3 open, and breathe through the nose. Now, I got a bit of a sinus condition, as you can hear me some days here. So I'm going to tell you there are days that breathing through the nose is hard. I breathe through the mouth. But if you can, breathe through the nose. And as you'll discover, the more you calm, the more you become still, it's reflected in the breath. The breath also settles down. I've gone to maybe having 1 or 2 breaths a minute, not quite breathing out of my ears like the Buddha, but my breath very much reduced because the metabolism, the body has slowed down. So we don't do anything special. We let the breath find its own rhythm. As a matter of fact, we've just put it out of mind. Remember, we're focused on everything and nothing at all. Let the breath take care of itself. It does it, even when you're asleep. It just breathes. Let it breathe. The one thing we might do, I might say, is we do breathe from down here in the diaphragm. Now, traditionally they would say you breathe down in the hara. I don't know if you can see that, but it's this little space down here about 2 or 3 inches below the belly button. That was traditionally in Chinese medicine the source of power, where the breath, we would breathe down to all the way there. Well, let me tell you in truth, if your breath is really going through your body and getting down there to your belly button, you better see a doctor. The Chinese actually thought the breath was going down there. Now we know it should feel as if the breath is going that deep and returning from that deep. But it's really your diaphragm expanding. But it should feel that you're not just breathing at the top of your chest, your breaths are coming deep. And then just breathe. Let long breaths be long, short breaths be short. And to get a little mystical and Zen here, you'll also find out that it's the whole universe breathing. Your breaths come from nowhere. They come from the most distant star. They come and pull in the whole earth. It's all connected. But let's not get too Zen-y here. Let's just sit and breathe.